Governor Pence, welcome back to Meet the Press. We are
Thank you, Chuck.
on a Saturday in September.
That's right.
In Columbus, Ohio. The single quietest place to be is where we are at, which is the library, not the football stadium, right? But,
That's right.
Here's where you do. I want to start with immigration because there's been a lot of confusion even since Donald Trump's speech on Wednesday. If somebody has been in this country illegally, but has not committed any other crime, and they're part of this 11 to 15 million, are they going to be forcibly deported in a Trump-Pence administration?
Well, I think what Donald Trump laid out this week in Arizona was really a roadmap to end illegal immigration once and for all in this country. I mean, for more than a generation, politicians in both political parties have been talking about ending illegal immigration, but I think what the American people see in Donald Trump is a man who, as president, will lead the effort to do that. And the 10-point plan that he laid out this week in Arizona really creates a roadmap to do that. It begins with building a wall, border security. It begins with enforcing the laws of this country, removing criminal aliens and removing people who've overstayed their visa, ending catch and release, strengthening our border patrol, strengthening immigration and customs enforcement, doing all of the kinds of things we've talked about, the E-Verify system for employers in this country, all the things that we know will bring all the incentives that are built into our economy, all of the ways that illegal immigration has been made possible in this country, all of that will come to an end. And I think that's exactly what the American people want to hear today. And with regard to anyone that remains after all of that is done, I think what you heard Donald Trump say is that we'll give consideration working with the Congress in a new and reformed immigration system to consider it at that time. But what the American people want to see today is to establish the borders of this country, enforce the laws of this country, and Donald Trump has created a roadmap to do that, Chuck.
Why can't you definitively say what's going to happen to these folks? Because he used to definitively say it. He said everybody has to leave, even if quickly. Everybody has to leave, and now there's some muddiness to this. I don't know how, it is just unclear to me. Can you clear this up? You went through a lot of detail,
right,
but you left that part out.
Well,
and I know because that's the hardest part. You're leaving out the hardest part in this issue, which is what do you do with the folks that are already here?
Well, that may be the way you see it. Looking at some 10,000 people in Arizona last week, it wasn't the way they see it. As I travel across this country campaigning with Donald Trump and for Donald Trump, I think people hear him loud and clear, and he's been completely consistent on this point.
No,
he put illegal immigration at the very center of the national debate.
But he has not been consistent on this issue of what to do with the 11 to 15 million.
Well, but there are people in different circumstances in that category. There are people who are criminal aliens in this country, and I think everyone in this country understands the people who are here, whose first
violent crimes.
Well, people who are here, who their first act in this country was a violation of the law, but have gone on to criminal activity in America. We want them out. We want them out quickly. Donald Trump has made it very clear that a priority of our administration will be removing criminal aliens. We'll also be finding people who've overstayed their visa. An enormous number of people come to this country legally, and then simply overstay their visas because we make no effort to hold them accountable to that or uphold the law. The simple truth is that what the American people long to see is leadership at the national level that doesn't myopically focus on the group that you're focused on, and I know the media loves to focus on, but is focused on the American people themselves.
There was a whole bunch of Latino leaders that there's quite a few of them have backed away from supporting your ticket because they didn't like what they heard on Wednesday because they were told one thing and they felt misled. One of them even said they felt misled. And one of the major issues has to do with what about this issue of deportations? And what are you going to do? And it's not just media.
I was campaigning in Idaho, and a Mexican-American who came to this country legally with his family came up to me wearing a Trump-Pence shirt, shook my hand and said, "Tell Donald Trump we support him 100%. I mean, people who have come to this country legally, who stood in line, who played by the rules in the Latino and the Hispanic community, just like every other American, long to have a president that says we are a nation of laws and that we're going to uphold and enforce those laws. But what I thought was most important about Donald Trump's speech on Wednesday night in Arizona was different, frankly, Chuck, with all due respect, to the media's focus on the 11 million or whatever that number is. He was focused on the more than 300 million people who are citizens of this country and are here legally in this country, and driving policies in immigration that will work for them, work for the future of our nation. But make no mistake about it, I hope your viewers have a chance to read or to see that speech in Arizona. He also talked about establishing a commission to reform our broken immigration laws whole cloth, to really to reform and change the way that people have the ability to come into this country, and do it all in a way that's in the interest of the American people and in the interest of the long-term future of our country.
Is it fair to say that you're not going to answer this question about the 11 to 15 million? When I say just you, but the campaign, you're going to leave this as an open question throughout the rest of this campaign?
I think Donald Trump's been completely consistent, and I think he did answer the question.
Is it an open question? But he hasn't when it comes to, because on one hand, he said deportation force, everybody has to leave. I mean, he said it, everybody has to leave. We got to have borders. Now he's saying he's open to doing something different with whoever remains, which would be about half. Everything you described, overstaying visas, all this stuff, the estimates, you'd still have 3 to 4 million people here at minimum, who the only crime they committed was coming over the border illegally. Other than that, they've committed no crimes. What happens to them?
Well, I think we really don't know what that number is or who that is until we do all of the things in the 10-point plan that Donald Trump
How do you incentivize them to come
described.
out of the shadows if you don't tell them what the penalty will be?
Well, I think, look, Donald Trump's made it very, very clear that in his 10-point plan, we're going to build a wall. We're going to enforce the laws of this country. We're going to end catch and release. We're going to do all of the things that politicians in both political parties have been talking about for more than a generation. He's also said there's going to be no amnesty and no path to legalization. If people want to get legalized or want to get right under the color of the law, they need to leave the country. But
so
he also said—
nobody becomes legal in this country without leaving the country?
Chuck, he also said—
See, this is where we get confused.
He also said it's not going to be under the existing caps in the existing program, but it's rather going to be under a new and reformed immigration program. I mean, what you heard Donald Trump call for was border security, building a wall, which actually Hillary Clinton actually said that she was for a physical barrier, I'm told, just a few short years ago. And then strengthening the enforcement of the laws in this country in a way that will basically disconnect the incentive in the workplace that's been taking jobs from Americans and lowering wages, and also disconnect the incentives in our welfare system that are driving illegal immigration. And once we do all of that, he's made it very clear, then those that remain, we will give consideration working with the Congress to determine the best approach to that. We'll do it in a way that reflects. We'll do it in a way that—
He said this week even amnesty might be on the table for a small group of these folks.
I think I understand. I really do understand the focus in the media on this issue, because it's all that Washington has talked about for more than a decade. What Donald Trump did this week—
Everybody agrees on a secure border. People may
No, they
may
don't.
disagree on what it looks
Chuck,
like.
everybody
But there is
talks about a
there
secure
are broad
border.
agreements, except what
Chuck,
to do with 11 to 15 million.
Everybody talks about a secure border. I mean, Charles Krauthammer, in a great column this week, said finally Donald Trump has put it in the right order. That when in Congress, and you remember, you and I knew each other back in my years in Congress, people pay lip service to border integrity and lip service to enforcing our laws, and that's why the American people have said, we're not ready to move and solve this problem. Donald Trump has put the issue of illegal immigration at the center of the national debate, broad-shouldered leadership, and people know that when Donald Trump says it, he means it. We're going to build a wall. We're going to enforce the laws of this country. We're going to make sure that we essentially end illegal immigration once and for all. And when all of that happens, then as a nation, he said, we can give consideration to how we resolve issues around those that remain. We'll do it humanely. We'll do it with compassion to the American people. But that conversation, I believe Donald Trump is exactly right. The American people don't want to have that conversation until they know that we are once again a nation with borders, and we're once again serious about enforcing our laws in a way that will end illegal immigration once and for all.
What do you do with so-called dreamers? Folks, kids that were brought here, when they came over here, their parents brought them illegally, they were kids, they're here now, they've gone to public school, what do you do with them?
I think all
So
of these.
he said he's going to rescind the executive order
Yeah,
that the president
of
signed.
course.
So then what do you do with it?
Yeah, well, of
Do
course.
they live in the shadows?
Well, of course, he's going to rescind, as he said, all of the unconstitutional executive orders. We've had in President Obama, and now we have a pledge in Hillary Clinton, the promise of successive administrations that essentially legislate from the Oval Office. The Supreme Court turned that back with this administration, and Donald Trump, of course, will rescind that, and he won't, as Hillary Clinton promises, to do executive amnesty. But look, again, I have to tell you, I've been traveling all over this country in the course of the last 6 weeks, and I promise you, the American people are responding to Donald Trump's leadership because they see in him a president who will finally not talk about ending illegal immigration. He'll take the steps necessary to do it. And in doing that, we'll move our nation forward, and down the road at the right time, after we've put first things first, then we can consider how we resolve these other issues.
This plan that he laid out, the 10-point plan, is very expensive. Different estimates, $50 billion over a 5-year period when you count building the wall, and I know I'm going to get to who's paying for the wall part, but maintaining the wall, keeping it up to all those things, adding all these Border Patrol, where's the money come from?
Well, first and foremost, I think the right question is what illegal immigration is costing our country.
Some people say it enhances the economy.
Well, and I'm not even talking about the billions of dollars of cost on our healthcare system and on our welfare system, but the lost jobs. This is Labor Day weekend, Chuck. Mm-hmm. We have 7 million able-bodied men in this country between the ages of 25 and 54 who are out of the workforce. Mm-hmm. 7 million. I have to tell you, illegal immigration has cost Americans jobs.
I understand, but how do you pay
has
for
lowered
this? Where do you find
wages.
the $50 billion? I mean, I know that you say, oh, there's savings here. Where do you find the actual cash to do it?
I think the totality of it, and ending illegal immigration, and also implementing his plan to get this economy moving again.
The money's just going to appear?
We will have the resource to add the border agencies asked to add the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, to ask business to fully implement the E-Verify system. And Mexico will pay for the wall.
How? How are you going to force an ally to pay for the wall? I mean, I understand the remittance idea that you redo the Patriot Act. Is that, I mean, that feels like a shakedown.
Well, look, we have an enormous economic relationship with Mexico. And this week you saw Donald Trump travel to Mexico City and meet with President Peña Nieto and start a constructive dialogue, first on issues that they agree on. But I'm very confident when Donald Trump becomes negotiator in chief, we're going to sit down with our ally in Mexico, who shares with us a commitment to ending illegal immigration. For this wall? I mean, other than we're going to withhold money? I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
What is the incentive for Mexico to pay for this wall, other than us saying we're going to withhold money, withhold remittances? That's the incentive? The
United States of America is the most powerful economy on the face of the earth. Access to our economy is enormously valuable to Mexico and every other country in the world. As we go into, whether it's reforming NAFTA, as both of these leaders talked about in their meeting this last week, or a broad range of areas of our relationship. Look, there's the one thing Donald Trump knows is how to do a deal, and I'm very confident. I'm very confident. After a very good start, I have to tell you, I was so proud but not surprised by the positive meeting that Donald Trump had with President Peña Nieto.
But why the tone change? Were you concerned? I mean, apparently the RNC, this morning's New York Times, the RNC was so upset about the tone of Donald Trump's speech that they refused to put out any releases or tweets supporting the speech for 24 hours.
Yeah.
You were comfortable with the tone he used in Phoenix?
I think the nearly 10,000 people who were there were very comfortable with it. I was very comfortable with it as well.
Why do you think the RNC is not?
Well, I think the contrast is, I think what Donald Trump showed on Wednesday was presidential leadership at home and abroad. When a president goes overseas, what the American people saw was Donald Trump's ability to sit down with a world leader with whom we have strong differences of opinion and have a positive and constructive meeting. It was Teddy Roosevelt that said on the world stage, America should walk softly and have a big stick. And he walked softly in Mexico City on Wednesday. But coming home in the midst of a political debate, I thought it was altogether fitting for Donald Trump to speak passionately about the families who've lost loved ones to criminal violence by illegal immigrants, to speak passionately about his commitment and his 10-point plan to end illegal immigration.
What do you say? I mean, you were out in Utah this week with Mike Lee, who's been a Trump critic. You have been sort of the liaison with Republican Trump critics. I'm guessing sometimes you're on the receiving end of phone calls. What do you tell them who say, I don't like his tone with Hispanics, he's hurting the party with Hispanics? What do you tell your friends who call you or complain to you about his tone?
I tell them that I believe Donald Trump is a good man who will be a great president of the United States. Look, this is a very challenging time in the life of our nation. And the American people, through the Republican primaries in our party, have chosen a broad-shouldered, plain-spoken leader to confront these times. And now, over the last month, Donald Trump has been laying out in a series of speeches, most recently in Arizona on immigration, to really get this economy moving again, to have America standing strong in the world again, to rebuild our military, to confront radical Islamic terrorism, and also to end illegal immigration once and for all. And I have to tell you, for those, whether it be in our party or independents or even many Democrats who are looking our way, I always say, number one, that I've come to know this man. He's a good man who loves his family and loves this country. But I also tell them, look at the choice between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, between broad-shouldered, pro-growth American leadership that will support our military, support law enforcement at home, end illegal immigration, get this economy moving again, and Hillary Clinton, who literally wants to continue the failed policies of an administration that has weakened America's place in the world and stifled America's economy.
Let me ask you about being in Utah, by the way. First of all, you had a campaign in Utah.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Mormons in particular don't like the Muslim ban, don't like even the revised version of it, which is not supposedly targeting religions, but targeting regions. And they come home from missions and talk about trying to help these Syrian refugees. I'm sure you heard some complaints personally about this. What did you tell concerned Utah residents about the Muslim ban?
I was frankly overwhelmed by the support that I encountered in Utah and later in the day in Idaho. I have to tell you, people are listening to Donald Trump's agenda to make America great again, and they're responding. And I'll tell you, particularly in Utah, there's great concern about the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, people understand. And I had a great conversation with Senator Mike Lee on this very point. The choice between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is a choice between, in Donald Trump, a president who will appoint justices, who will strictly construe the Constitution in the tradition of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia, and Hillary Clinton, who will appoint more liberals to the court, who will legislate from the bench and move our country further to the left on a broad range of issues, especially in the range of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. That issue came up repeatedly when I was in Utah, and I think the American people and the people of that great state understand the choice could not be more clear in this election.
Let's go back to this Muslim ban. When he first came out of it, you basically said it's unconstitutional. You have defended the new version of this. Why do you think the new version of his plan, which would target countries or regions rather than religion, why do you think that's constitutional?
Well, first off, the foreign policy of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton has resulted in the wider Middle East literally spinning out of control. I mean, we've seen Syria imploding into civil war, Libya imploding into civil war. We have entire countries in that region of the world and territories that have been compromised by terrorism. And I think what Donald Trump has said is that we have to immediately suspend immigration from any countries that have been compromised by terrorism. And
you
I
can
think
make a case that over 100 countries have been compromised. I mean, like, how do you identify give me the definition of a country compromised by terrorism? Is that France?
Well, let's start with
the United States.
Chuck, let's start with Syria. Hillary Clinton wants to increase Syrian refugees to this country by 550%. I don't think any.
The United Nations is asking the United States to increase its Syrian. By the way, for what it's worth, it goes from right now we've accepted 10,000, and they want us to accept 65,000.
Sure. Well, Hillary Clinton wants to increase Syrian refugees to this country by 550%.
10 to 65. That's what the UN request is.
Donald Trump and I believe that we should suspend the Syrian refugee program
completely.
And create, working with Arab countries to create safe zones for people to be able to escape those war-torn areas. But to continue to allow people into this country when our own Homeland Security, our own FBI says we can't know for certain who these people are, is putting the safety and security of the American people second to the agenda of the UN or to liberals in this country. And Donald Trump is just simply not going to do that. The President of the United States' first obligation is to see to the safety and security of the people of the United States of America, and people around the country know that Donald Trump will do that regarding these issues.
Quick question about the leadership of the campaign. There's been some troubling allegations both with against Steve Bannon, some things he may have said about Jewish people, some things he may have happened between him and his wife. There's been troubling allegations having to do with Roger Ailes, both of whom are apparently advisors to this campaign. Are you comfortable with that, considering some of the allegations you've read against both of these men? Are you comfortable with their involvement in this campaign?
Well, I promise you the person leading Donald Trump's campaign is Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he and I talk every day, sometimes several times a day. He is a hands-on leader and a hands-on CEO.
Appropriate for Roger Ailes to be involved?
I trust Donald Trump's judgment to assemble around this team a group that's going to help us move forward and be successful and win. And come on, I mean, Steve Bannon has denied all of those allegations. And
some of them are in court records. I mean, look, and I know, divorces are divorces. I'm not going. But it's troubling allegations. People are going to look at that and say, all right, Steve Bannon. Then you see all these allegations against Roger Ailes. It just feels as if does he ignore troubling allegations against people that work for him?
I trust Donald Trump to assemble a team around him in this campaign, as he has and will continue to. You'll continue to see people added to this campaign. What's really remarkable for me, having joined this campaign just 6 weeks ago, is the fact that this campaign has always been propelled by a movement of the American people. I mean, we're in Hillary Clinton. There's 1,000 employees and experts and pollsters, and frankly, there were people in the Republican primary who had significant apparatus as well. Donald Trump, on the sheer force of his message to make America great again, on the sheer force of his ability to communicate that message, swept through the Republican primaries. And we continue to see all over the country an outpouring of support from Republicans, independents, and many Democrats who simply know we can make this country better and stronger. And that's where people are focused. To be honest with you, Chuck, I know these issues, staff issues and internal issues, are of great interest in your world. When I'm out campaigning, it's just not where the American people are focused. They're focused on the fact that we've seen a weakened American's role in the world. They're seeing that this economy is struggling. I mean, the recent economic numbers were rounded down again to just 1.1% growth in the last quarter. There's a lot of people hurting in this country who know we can be better, who know we can be stronger, and they know that Donald Trump is the kind of president who will make America great again.
All right, Governor Pence, we have some football to go see, I think.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks.
Be
Sir.
safe on the trip.
Thank you.
You got it.